And welcome to another episode of GamerHeads. My name is Roger, aka Rogue Leader 76, and with me we have B.
Hi.
Hey B, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I had a long week, and we can talk about that in a little bit here. And then we also have our guest. We have Rachel Presser.
Hi.
Hey Rachel, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So B, is it offensive to say, talk about my 4th of July?
I can sense that you're kind of raring for a ribbon here every time. Every time you mention it, you're like, "Is this okay?" And I think you're just after a fight.
I'm not. I just want to make sure, like, you know, because okay, all right. Do you guys celebrate the 4th, like getting rid of us? I mean, I probably would. I mean.
I imagine it could be made into a thing.
Probably. I went camping over the 4th of July. And yeah.
Nice.
I will say camping with 2 kids is like way more stressful than when my wife and I were just camp by ourselves. At one point, though, I'll tell a quick funny story. At one point in the camping, it was late at night, and I had to go to the bathroom, and I wasn't going to walk all the way to the shelter where they had the bathroom. So I was just like, I'm just going to pee in the woods because that's, you know, what we do. And my son, who is 3, he's like, "Dad, what are you doing? Are you going to pee on the mattress?" I'm like, "No, I'm not going to pee on the mattress. I'm going to pee outside." "Dad, are you going to pee on the rocks? What are you doing, Dad? Dad, can I hear you pee? Can I, like, and the campsite is quiet at this point. I'm like, "Shh, be quiet, be quiet." Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. And then the other thing that was kind of funny about the camping trip is you get people from, like, the big cities that don't realize that when you're camping, you're with wild. I mean, you're with nature, and there's animals in nature, and they would leave their food out, and raccoons would come. Of course, raccoons would come. And man, there was one, I guess, one site that had like 6 raccoons come and attack it, and this kid, we saw at the park. He was my daughter's age, probably around 7 or 8, and he said, "Yeah, we were surrounded by raccoons last night." And I said, "Oh, you were? How many?" He's like, "Oh, 6 raccoons." I'm like, "That's crazy." And he said, "Yeah, my grandfather was supposed to sleep in a tent, but he was afraid that they were gonna attack him, so he crawled into the camper and slept on the floor."
Oh my god! Oh no, camping just sounds traumatizing. Yeah. I mean, like, it's like I love nature and the outdoors. I mean, I'm a crazy toad lady after all. I'm a city girl, but a toad lady. And no, I'm sorry. I gotta be indoors. My back is still all screwed up from like years of going to punk festivals, sleeping in the van and no, I'm done. I'm in my 30s. I'm done. I don't need to be at a Holiday Inn, but just like having some floor would be nice. Where I can like leave some food behind and not have to worry about coming back and finding that like a bear decimated where I'm supposed to sleep. Yeah, I can't jive with that. I can't jive with that. Although we actually do get some raccoons up in the Bronx, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, we do. I mean, because the Bronx, I think, is the most like topographically diverse borough. I mean, we have the most parkland. I mean, like whenever I go visit my swamp, out in the southeast Bronx, no, like if you go like my home neighborhood, Co-op City, like you get geese, you get raccoons, you get like it's like the frickin' Bronx Zoo over there. You get everything.
B, do you guys go camping over in England?
No, I'm very much I love nature, but I'm very much a hotel kind of girl. I don't want to have to pee in the woods.
Well, I didn't have to. I could have walked, but it was dark, so I just,
No, I like hotels. I do like nature, but I prefer the city.
Yeah. I will say, I forget how stressful camping is And then like, a year later, I'm like, let's go camping again. And then I remember how stressful it is. So, but it is cheap. It's cheaper than staying in a hotel. So that's that thing.
True.
So. All right. Well, let's meet our guests. So, Rachel, you are known as Toad Lady on the Twitters.
Yes, I am.
So, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I run a company called Sonic Toad Media and Consulting. Got to give a shameless plug there. So I do content strategy and creation, professional development, and business consulting for game developers and the people who wish to do business with them. And so I use the name Sonic Toad Media not because of the stupid respectability politics attached to game studios, but it's because games are not the only medium that I work in. I also do a lot of writing. I'm both bylined and for hire. I'm getting into like video and streaming media. I'm working on like 2 different games right now. My game Clam Chowder Hub Run it's an experience. I don't really have a genre for it. It's an experience. It's based on a true story. It's a tale of America's crumbling infrastructure told through the lens of a schlubby hipster getting clam chowder all over his neckbeard on the M5 bus.
Okay.
If there's time, I will tell the backstory. If there's time. It is a long and stupid backstory, which kind of loses the effect that I'm not telling it in person. But if there's time, I will tell the game's backstory. I'm also working on a slightly more serious point-and-click adventure called Limerence, which is a psychological term for being addicted to being in love. It's like I was just like blindsided by inspiration last month and started derping around in AGS and like started like cobbling like a little demo together. And excuse me, now I'm still like trying to fine tune the narrative for it right now. So basically I'm a media hustler. I love toads. I spend way too much time on Twitter, but I say that like pejoratively, but it's actually led to some pretty interesting opportunities. I've grown my business through it in a pretty surprising way. Met a lot of really cool people, made friends, even gone on dates. And I travel a lot. I spend like 30 to 40% of the year on the road mostly for game dev conventions, but then other stuff I'm involved with, and then just for the hell of it because I can be a digital nomad light, and it's awesome.
Cool. So what got you into game dev then? What kind of sparked your interest with that?
Well, because like a lot of people, in my age bracket, I'm turning 33 in about a little less than, oh my god, 10 days. Not even 2 weeks. Yeah, my birthday's in 10 days.
Happy early birthday.
Oh, thank you. Wow, time really flew by. So I'm turning 33 in like 10 days. So like a lot of people in my age bracket, I grew up, playing all those classic point-and-click adventure games, from like Sierra and LucasArts, and then I also had like the more punk rock version of games growing up. I wrote about this in my old column on Game With Your Brain. I still have those pieces up. You should go check it out. Shareware. Do you remember?
Yes.
Shareware.
Oh yeah, I used to make games for Shareware actually. Yes.
That was the term before indie developer entered our lexicon. And so I remember just growing up like with this feeling. So look, I was like 8, 9 years old. I didn't have my own money yet. Getting on the internet was a bit of a process. You remember having you remember that old dial-up noise, and then you had to like tell somebody they couldn't pick up the phone because you were on the internet. Yeah, that's like what kind of time that it was. And and so I had like all these games that like I was trying out, and then I was like, hey, when I have my own money someday, I'm gonna buy the full version. There were so many I just never got to buy the full version, because Mac shareware, because I grew up in a Mac household, Mac shareware has been like the hardest to preserve because OS Classic is just garbage. Like nothing in it works. It's not as seamless, as running DOS on newer Windows machines or running DOSBox. It's not it's not built in, and it's not compatible. And so, but I don't know if you grew up in a Mac or a PC household. Because I grew up in a Mac household, it was just so much harder to find games for it.
Yeah.
And then you had to wait a year or longer for a Mac port to come out. If it ever came out, it would be more expensive if it actually did hit the shelves or what have you. So so obviously shareware devs took the matter into their own hands, and that's how we had all this Mac shareware. And yeah, it was totally the freaking punk thing to do, because you had these fucking Ziplocs full of floppy disks, just bail these Xerox zines, like DIY demo discs. That was actually, I think, what was the precursor that got me into the punk and hardcore scene, because I was already so familiar with underground shit that nobody heard of.
Yeah.
And this was when the internet was still pretty young, so it's not like these days where, oh yeah, you can just go on YouTube. You can find so many of these rare EPs that the bands themselves uploaded, or that there's some music archivist actually found them. Oh yeah, you can just go on eBay and find some of these limited edition pressings. Even they're selling for a ton of money. Hey, they're still out there. Someone's preserved the medium in some fashion or another. Whereas I did write an article about why game preservation has been a more prickly area compared to other mediums, because it's a combination of actual technical limitations and people, especially with respect to the early Mac stuff, hardest to preserve. But there's also just been a lot of people who think that games are not worth preserving. Hence, people are making efforts now, but for a long time there was no effort because it just wasn't seen as something worth saving.
Yeah.
And I think that attitude is maybe starting to change, but I think we still see we have a bit of a PR problem. I think most of us can agree on that. There's certain segments of people who play games that make it kind of difficult for the medium to be taken seriously, even though we are making strides with that.
Sure.
But it was playing all that shareware growing up, and then playing the bigger games too that made me want to be a game developer, and then to put things in a nutshell, the industry was going through its awkward teenage years. By the time I was a junior in high school, I was a junior when 9/11 happened. So, shit was getting, pretty messed up by then. Our rights were starting to be taken away at that point. We were watching a lot of drastic change happen, and it was just a really awkward time, to be on the cusp of graduating high school, because it's an awkward time of your life to begin with. But I think it was just really compounded by this. Hey, we're entering a new century, a new frickin' millennium. All these things are rapidly changing. All these people want to keep things the same. I think we're still kind of going through that, actually. And then that just with where technology was at the time, with where our culture was at the time. I just remember there was no such thing as game design programs in schools.
Yeah.
Now I'm a guest lecturer for a bunch of them.
That's awesome.
It blows my mind to see this sometimes. There's entire set, some of these schools I've lectured at, Rensselaer Polytechnic upstate, for instance. I just did a talk there in December. They have this whole amazing, impressive center like dedicated to game design. There's the NYU Game Center right here in New York. Parsons has a whole thing for, I think even Thoreau College does. Yeah, it's like mind blowing to see this. Because I just remember back then thinking like, hey, I'd like to do something with games, but that was before we had like the technical infrastructure that we have now. That was before indie developers were really a thing. Like I saw that there were people, like there were people making games without a publisher, but there was like a small handful of developers. That's nothing like what we've got now.
Yeah.
And so I thought I had to shelve that dream. So that's how I ended up with 2 accounting degrees. Because I swallowed the Kool-Aid that like, because I wanted to study like film or writing. Since I didn't know how I would get into video games, I knew nobody in the business. I had no idea what to do there. I thought, you have to like move to California or to Washington, and I'm like, hey, I'm not giving up, the community I have over here. I'm not going to leave behind the rent control department I had for 10 years. I'm like, screw that. I'm not giving any of that up just to have to go from one job to another every 6 months, because that was also before I knew entrepreneurship was an option. No one told me that either. So I think I've made it like my mission also with Sonic Toad to tell people that you've got options. It's not as black and white as, go to school, graduate, get a job, or you're going to start a business. That means you have to chase investor money. No, you don't have to do either.
Yeah.
And so I built this whole media career. Out of the foundation of just not only what was available at the time, but then just the way that things more or less turned out, and then realizing that hey, I don't have to do things the way I was told to do them. And yeah, I'm kind of going off on tangents, but I think you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like you like created your own path, actually.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so now I help people with the professional development aspects and the business development aspects. So the less sexy parts of going off on your own and getting into games, especially as an indie, that people don't like to think about. And so, but we still have to do them. Like I know that like think about taxes and marketing and business entities and contracts. Yeah, none of it is sexy stuff, but it's all important. And you know what? I do all that during the day or by night, whatever. I say by day, you get what I mean.
Yeah.
And then I get to work on my own stuff, and and get to travel, get to go all these different conventions and schools, and it's been pretty awesome.
That's cool.
To ask, your games that you're working on, are you a one-person team on those, or do you have a team working on them as well?
So it's mostly just me, but then I also have my artist Danny, who's worked with me on most projects. He did all my lovely Toad graphics and is and at the time of recording is getting version 3.0 of my website ready for launch. Yay!
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a shiny new website very soon. I can't wait.
Cool.
So he does a lot of my artwork, and then I mostly I'm a free agent. I mostly work with other free agents, project dependent. So right now, like for Clam Chowder Hub Run, I was actually working with an actual entire team that does Unity project on the Knights of Unity based in Poland. I've been working with them on and off. For Limerence, I said that's like a very brand new project. So far, that's just been me derping around in AGS, but I'm probably gonna want someone else who can script way better than I can in due time.
Cool.
I look forward to seeing more from them. I'll keep an eye out.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, me too. And it sounds like you do a lot of talks at different conferences.
Yep.
So it's more about the I guess the inner workings of how, like you said, the non-sexy parts of game development, right? Is that what you?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
cool.
mostly what I do because like my chief discipline as a game dev is a narrative designer. And my God, I wish I knew that narrative design was a field in video games when I was a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed 18-year-old. I just want to say that. Granted, yes, that games have evolved as a medium quite a bit. Now having like a real quality narrative is to be expected. But narrative work is like my chief area of expertise in game development. So I actually just pitched a talk about the evolution of game narratives and how adventure games can be empathy machines. So I talk about those issues as well. Majority of like the convention talks I do, which is mostly geared to other game devs, opposed to like players or a more general audience. Those are mostly geared towards like the business aspect of things. Like last year, I did a whole series of talks on how to increase your bargaining power to get paid more. That's something I think everybody wants to know.
Yeah.
This year's theme is mostly about change management, which is I think very timely, given that we are facing some extreme changes in terms of how utterly broken game distribution is. And so I just gave a talk at East Coast Game Developers Conference about that. I've got another one coming up at GDEX in September, and then I'll be at both GameCon Atlantic City and Vegas, also giving talks about change management and like how we can and should be forging new business models, in the face of, Steam essentially breaking here.
Yeah.
Not really working for indie developers. So I talk mostly just about like the business of games pretty much, but it doesn't mean I've forgotten the creative parts of it, not at all.
Sure. Cool. Yeah, I read some of your blog posts about the change management. That was interesting.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Rachel. So we'll go into our hot topic in a moment where, obviously, Rachel, I want your opinion on our hot topic this week.
Yes.
So our next topic here, we're going to go into our GamerHeads Spotlight game.
This is the GamerHeads Game Spotlight.
So our Spotlight game, and Rachel, you can jump in. I don't know if you played this game at all. We're going to be talking about Miles and Kilo for the Switch.
No, I have not played it.
Okay. So our friends at Four Horses gave Four Horses Games gave us a review copy, both B and myself and Ben, but Ben's not here. I got to play a chance to play it, and B got a chance to play the game. B, what are your initial thoughts of the game?
I was drawn in firstly by how cute it is. I think I mentioned that last time. It's adorable. I love it. I love the kind of nostalgia. I mean, I missed that particular kind of nostalgia, but it still hit me.
Yeah.
It's so simple. That was one of my favorite things about it. It's just pick up and play.
Yeah.
And also, you can just put it down whenever and then come back again whenever. You can just take 5 minutes to play, just a couple of minutes to play. You don't have to have an hour or two set aside to be able to play. It's funny as well. It's really charming. I think that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. So it's a sequel, and I use quotation sequel to Kid Trip. So Kid Trip was a constant runner or endless runner, but this one actually has endless runner levels, but you can also, that's with the dog, but then as you playing as Miles, you can actually, it's more like a platform game in that sense where you can actually control that. So yeah, I agree. I thought it was a cute game too. I am not good at constant runners like that. I will say that this game is really cute. I am struggling with a level with the dog that I just can't get by right now. I swear a lot at this game, so. But I do love the game.
I don't have a heated gaming moment.
Yeah, I know. Well, and I joked with some people that follow us on Twitter. I said, if you want to see me swear, get angry, watch our streams on Monday nights because we play in this game and I get very frustrated. I die a lot. So, but with that said, I'm going to give this game a 9 out of 10. I really think this is a great game. It's a lot of fun, and it brings back some of those like you said, like those retro feel to the game. So
yeah,
and I think that this game is a lot better on the Switch than I would be on a mobile platform. Like, I cannot imagine playing this game like on a mobile phone.
I think it's way better on the Switch.
Yeah.
Much better choice.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, go check it out now. The game is on the Switch eShop, and if you buy it now between, I think it was July the 12th, I think that's what Mick said. Yeah. That you can actually get Kid Trip for free. All right, let's go into our GamerHeads news flash.
The GamerHeads News Flash.
So I have a few items here for our news. The first item that I have here is Castlevania Season 2 airs on Netflix on October 26th.
I really enjoyed the first season.
It was good.
It was great. I loved it. I'm excited.
Oh wait, there's a Castlevania show on Netflix. Wow, I've been under a rock.
Oh yeah, it's great.
I know. Well, I'm a Hulu user. I don't have Netflix.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, really good. It's an animated series, and it revolves around Castlevania 3. So there's
Okay.
Alucard, and then there's the thief character. I can't remember, Grant.
So it's not quite in the same vein as those Zelda cartoons we had growing up.
No, it's a lot darker. And yeah, because like there's what was that one scene where like Trevor takes his whip and knocks some guy's eyeball out, and there's like,
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah.
So the next season's gonna have 8 episodes, but they're already recording season 3, so that's a good sign.
Nice. Yeah.
The next item that I have here is Pokemon Quest has already raked in $3 million in its first week on the mobile platform.
It's a lot of money.
What?
It blows my mind sometimes. Yeah, just like what a massive gulf there is between. Yeah, I know these like huge published games and like what the average indie game makes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Pokemon does have the gigantic franchise behind it. I think anything they do will do well.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, it's crazy. I started playing Pokemon Quest again on the Switch. B, you played that game, right?
Yeah, I did.
What did you think of
It
it?
was my absolute favorite thing was how you picked which Pokemon you wanted to be a friend, and then you find out you kind of just follow it around and watch it from a bird's eye view while it goes on a rampage and just takes out every other Pokemon it can see. Bulbasaur, stop.
Come back here! No. Yeah, that's true.
This is Pokemon in the wild.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
It's not a nice, normal, tame Pokemon. These are angry, wild Pokemon.
Yeah, we had no option of even trying to catch them.
No. Oh, well, that's dead now. And then when you also go to cook food, I wasn't sure at first if when the other Pokemon come, they're going to be your friends, or if you were just trying to lure Pokemon closer so your chosen friend could beat the crap out of them.
Oh man, yeah. The thing that I don't. There's like very little control you have over that game too. It's just like you said, they just kind of destroy everything in their path. But I kind of been enjoying it again. I was playing it last night, and I'm like, I don't know. It's somewhat addicting. I don't know. It's weird. The next item that I have here, GameStop reports that the sales of Nintendo Switches doubled after the week following E3.
I mean, I think it's going to be a time where people do buy more games in general because they're seeing a lot of news about games. So they're like, oh, I might buy it. I don't think you really need to, although they did have some cool news, I don't think you even necessarily need it for people to, I think it's more that subconscious thing. You see a lot of game news, you're like, oh, I might buy a new game, I might buy that game to think about.
And after E3, that's when, I mean, there's always, this, like, massive hype, during and after E3 that, like, gets people more excited, I think, than they would any other time of the year, like, maybe not barring, the holiday season, which has always been, the big be-all, end-all, for, mainly for AAA, especially, like, far less so for indie, but, yeah, you always get that, like, massive, major hype for E3, especially now that it's open to the public. And, especially that now, where you have so many people who just like they're all hyped up. They can't now they can't wait to go buy, not only not buy the game, but then go buy the new console that they can use with it. And I think that the Switch has just been seeing so much traction because I mean it's not only become like very like indie friendly, but it's also just I mean, like it's more portable. It's just really fun to use. I don't have. I mean, full disclosure, I don't have my own. I was just playing with the friends and almost didn't give it back. But I mean, I haven't bought my own yet. But
but I find it interesting though because right after E3, the shares of Nintendo went down like by like I don't know 16% or so.
Yeah, which is weird.
Yeah, but then then their sales of the Switch doubles basically after that. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. The next item I have here, Toys R Us employee finds a Mario Kart 64 box hidden under a shelf.
This is like, I think our generation's equivalent of Geraldo's glove box.
Yeah.
How many of us like grew up with Toys R Us, being this like utopia that like when we grew up we all dream we'd be able to like go back and come back someday with a ton of money. But being an adult is not nearly as fun. I mean, like something random that crossed my mind the other day actually. Because you mentioned you have kids. I don't. Much respect, but I don't want to have any. But something I was thinking about was like, hey, if I had kids, if I'm gonna like go like birthday shopping for one of my friends' children or something, and if I want to go to like get them like a toy, I'm like I have to like go to Target or like buy it online because I'm like we don't actually have like toy stores anymore. If you really think about it, like I live in like the damn shopping capital of like the world, here in New York, and yet. Yeah, we like don't even have like toy stores anymore, and like that's kind of a depressing thought in a sense because, well, we're thinking about like our buying habits, in terms of like being busy adults. Where we have like so much we have to cram into 24 hours. So it's great to go get X, Y, and Z delivered to us. But when you're a kid, like you don't have any concept of those things yet. Like I said, I just mentioned, remember like going to that store was like an experience. Even if like you left with like, just like a $10 toy or something, it was getting to go, getting to see things, getting to try them out, and it is kind of sad that like we're gonna have this whole generation of kids that doesn't know what that's like. Yeah. That was just a random thought that occurred to me the other day.
B, you guys had Toys R Us over there, right?
Yeah, we did.
And did you go often? Yeah, okay.
Not often, but it was
like once in a while
like
here.
A big special trip.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was like something I think only happened maybe like 3 or 4 times a year, if even in my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Toys R Us. I mean, that was a place where you can go and try out different games too. I thought that was really cool. I mean,
yeah.
They still have demo stations at other places like GameStop and whatnot, but it just wasn't the same. And then the last one here is Amazon Prime Day, fast approaching, by 16th and 17th.
Did you get anything last year?
I think I got an Echo Dot.
Nice. I got a Kindle.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I do.
One of the ones.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's okay. I was just going to say one of the ones with the kind of paper screen, because I was sick of looking at screens all day long. It was hurting my eyes. So I got one that doesn't have the backlight, and it's not shiny. It's all glossy.
Yeah, I want to get a Kindle.
I don't tend to. The whole reason I got it was to avoid the glary screen, but I do find myself just grabbing my phone or my iPad because I use them for work and other stuff, so I always just have them to hand so I don't use it as much as I intended to.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't bought any games at all on Amazon Prime Day, but maybe I'll look this year. That's all the news items I had. Do either of you have any news items?
I did see that the Kill game has a trailer now, which I'm excited for.
Cool.
Obviously, it's a fighting game. It would be a bit strange if it wasn't. But yeah, I look forward to that coming out.
Nothing's immediately coming to mind on my side of things, except that, like, once again, like I mentioned before, it's maybe a bit of a less sexy topic, but I did see news that, like, even internally over, at Valve, they're pretty much, concerned about what's happening, with, like, sort of how broken, distribution, pretty much is, and that, like, they're actually starting to work on their more, like, accurate, like, Steam Spy type of tools, because, Steam Spy was, like, the best way people could see what was happening, and then Steam Spy basically got canned, because of the privacy regulation. Yeah, I know it may not be as exciting, but
yeah, no,
yeah,
I saw that too.
Yeah, that's the stuff that I gotta pay attention to. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I'm not really aware of any, like, newer games coming out.
All right, well, let's take a break here. When we come back, then we'll go into our hot topic.
Hello, this is Meg Stuyvesant from Small Monsters Games. Our newest card game is Takeout, a social set-building game for 2 to 4 players. In Takeout, players are backpackers traveling in China and trying to order delicious Chinese food. Unfortunately, none of you speak Chinese. The object of the game is to get 1 dish of each flavor, sweet, sour, salty, spicy, and bitter, and a cold drink into your meal, before any of your friends do. To win, use your superior chopstick skills to steal tasty food from someone else's plate, or use a Mandarin English phrasebook to attack your friends. This game was inspired by my years living and working in China. Takeout was a tabletop showcase selection at last year's Boston Festival of Indie Games. You can check out our website, smallmonstersgames.com, or follow us on Twitter at @small_monsters for more. Thank you.
Have you ever been reading through a stack of comics and thought, hey, maybe I should see what this Arkham Asylum game is all about? Or been playing Marvel vs. Capcom and felt like you were at a real disadvantage because you didn't know who half the characters were? Well, Play Comics is the show for you. I'm Chris, and each episode, I take a look at video games based on comic book properties and how well they stick to that source material. So, whether you know the comics and want to actually learn how these games work, or know the games and want to know what the hell is going on, go check out Play Comics at playcomics.com, the Brain Trust Bros Network, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Hey, it's Carrington from Real Dudes Podcast, and with me I have some fantastic co-hosts. Guys, why don't you introduce yourselves?
This is Andrew, coming to you from Lynchburg, Ohio.
This is Cody, coming from you also from Ohio.
And this is Kyle, coming to you straight from the armpits of West Virginia. We are an indie gaming podcast. We all share a love for games, and you can check out our show on Podbean. Just search for Real Dudes Podcast. You can also find us on iTunes, Google Play, really any of the podcasting outlets that you like to use. Again, that is Real Dudes Podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you love video games, you will love our show.
What's up, everybody? I'm Tyler.
I'm Lucas. And I'm Chris.
And we're better than Static. We meet up once a week and talk about movies, comics, and video games.
I don't want to talk about that.
What? Why are you complaining about all the topics I bring up? I'm trying to sound professional, Chris.
But we're not that good.
We are too good.
We may not be great, but we are better than Static.
You guys can hit up iTunes, Podbean, Google Play, and YouTube to check us out.
Remember that feeling of playing an ultra-hard video game and dying? Over and over and over? Ah! Yeah, so do we. Listen to the Controller Throwers podcast on iTunes and Google Play. And check out the live show every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time at twitch.tv/TCThrowers. The Controller Throwers, pressing start since 1985.
And welcome back to GamerHeads. And this week's topic actually revolves around the fact that two developers that were working on Guild Wars 2 were let go because of some of the comments between themselves and the community. So the question is there too much toxicity between game devs and the game community? I have some additional questions on that. So, yeah, B, do you want to? I guess I'll start with you, B. What are your thoughts? Is there a lot of toxicity between game devs and the game community?
I mean, there can be, but I think it's a very complicated issue for a number of reasons, some of which you've kind of mentioned in the questions that will come after. But I do think it's important for everyone to remember that the internet can be a really toxic place anyway. And I think the kind of people who behave in a very toxic manner, I do think if it wasn't games that they were doing this because of, like for that reason, I think they would just find another reason to do it. I don't think there's anything other than the very, very like specific cases where someone's gone off on a massive thing because they've become obsessed with one game. Generally speaking, I don't think there's anything particularly about games that makes people behave in a toxic way online. I think they'll very likely also be behaving in a toxic way about many other subjects that we might not see because we're looking at game stuff online.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, I do know that personally, you know, I work in social media and marketing personally. As far as the community that I manage goes, I always say that I've fallen very lucky because I assume it's with the kind of games that the company makes, the kind of audience it attracts tend to be kind of very empathic. You know, the games are all about doing the right thing. They're all about, if you've not got that kind of care and empathic side, the games aren't going to appeal to you as much as they will if you do. So it's a very, very nice community. And I understand that not everybody is that lucky with the communities that they manage online. But I do still think that it's more of a general problem than specifically a problem within games.
Yeah, interesting. Rachel, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to expound on that a little bit. Because there's so many, because games are not a monolith. You know, there's so many different types of games out there now. There's so many people who play games. There's so many more than there used to be. We still got, quite a long way to go in terms of, of like getting the medium, the respect that it deserves. Just looking at the way, that I've seen, like attitudes towards games evolve over, the past few decades. With that said, I agree with B that like games are not like inherently a more toxic medium, and that it ultimately depends on what type of community is flocking to the games that are being made. It does depend on that a lot. With that said, just speaking from a developer's point of view, even when you have a pretty positive community, it's just that there's some people who play games, not all, but there's some that will like take a developer to task over the most like minute things that like you just don't see this with any other medium. Yeah, like just thinking about like some of the emails that like I used to get when I was still with Himalaya. Oh man, there are just some people who like they still like like will like play your game. They still want to they still like will follow everything that you're doing, but then they will just nitpick you to death, or whether it's a technical thing or a narrative thing. And then when you combine it with that inherent toxicity of the internet that B was getting into, oh yeah, that gets overwhelming sometimes. It does. It's like when you're just because a game like may be more like narrative rich than like reflex heavy, it doesn't necessarily mean that like you're not going to deal with like problems in the community, because I know that like say like fighting games or like FPS like will get a bad rap for having very toxic communities. Obviously there's gonna be some good people who play those games, but I know what you mean. It's like it's a lot like how there's some bands I like, but then I can't stand their fans. There are like some metal bands I freaking love, but then for some reason, like some real fashy types also happen to like their music, and I'm like, oh god, I'm not dealing with this. Or it's different when it's like when it's a more like say very like left leaning hardcore band where I'm like, oh yeah, I love this fan base and I love the you get what I'm getting into.
Yeah. So I guess my next question we kind of touched base on this, but I do think it's a question that to be asked, like, what do you think caused this issue? What causes this issue of this toxicity?
Well, personally, I think that obviously in the past, game studios have been very much like every other business, where you'll get the business and they'll maybe kind of advertise online. But with the way social media changing all the time, everybody obviously wants there to be kind of a bridge between developers and studios and gamers. And people love that. The same with anything with, if it's like an author you follow or the people who make a TV show you like or the people who act in it. Everybody now wants these kind of bridges building so you can talk to these people and you can talk back and forth. And it's a very much more kind of open relationship between whoever's developing and whoever the potential buyer is, or the fan base in general. But I think that's a great thing. But I also think when those doors are opened, I think obviously toxicity can come with it along with the good things. I think when you open those doors, you get the good and you get the bad as well.
Oh yeah, it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
It absolutely is, because in some ways, like, because I remember just like when everyone was saying like, oh, like Kickstarter and the like as a way of like democratizing the game making process or other things. Like one thing I learned from running a very big Kickstarter is that you just cannot make everyone happy. That's just, it's the same thing too. Even if like you're not using crowdfunding for the game, but just, I mean, obviously you know this as a community manager. Oh yeah, it's just impossible to make everyone happy. But it's just that game devs just get held to this super fine, like microscopic level of scrutiny that, oh yeah, that dealing with sometimes with the social aspects can just be exhausting. I tweet about game dev stuff, but also about politics, about amphibians. And one day I just took a break from Twitter, and I actually had a whole bunch of people asking where I was. And it's on one hand, I'm like, oh, that's nice. Some people are concerned, but then on the other hand, it can also be read as demanding, oh, how dare you not be constantly creating content for me? It can go two ways.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you think that because there is this, I don't know. I don't want to say protection, but the fact that people can hide behind like a fake avatar or, you know, like a fake handle. Do you think that has a lot to do with it too?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Oh, it does. Because I've gotten, oh my god, I haven't even gotten like the same level of abuse that like a lot of my peers have, but oh yeah, people will say a lot of stuff. You know, they'll be all keyboard warrior because they don't have to show their real face. No, like there's a lot of people who will just like say and do whatever with like no regard for how it feels for the person or team of people on the other end reading like these abusive tweets and messages. No, like they absolutely take advantage of that anonymity. They absolutely do.
I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask the question. Do female game devs face more anger than male devs, and why do you think that's the case?
I think they do, and I think it's purely because there are, and any kind of thing you pick to look at, you're going to find misogynist in there. And I think because games were typically targeted more towards men for boys for a long, long time. Even in the sense that when we started having Nintendogs come out, that was for girls. I'm quotation marks for girls.
Yeah.
Or people will say kind of mobile games are for girls. We're also told underneath that, just kind of subtly, that they aren't real games. So we've got this whole thing going on. And although it's changing, I do still think we still have that going on, that the girls that games tend to play are not really games. And I think that just means that now it's changing and we're seeing more women in game development and more female gamers. I think that the people who are unfortunately sexist in the kind of game scene, I think they probably just feel more justified, or there's probably just more men who are vocal than women when it comes to games for all these reasons. I think they just feel more justified in behaving this way right now because it's been such a kind of male-dominated thing for so long, or at least we kind of expect it to have been. I don't think it ever really was. I think just as many girls played games as boys did, when I was growing up.
Oh no, we got crucified for it. Okay,
yeah,
we got crucified for it just as much as the boys did, except that we didn't cultivate this whole identity around it. Because oh please, I remember like being sneered at like by other girls, for because this was before the digital life was so pervasive, when it was like a real like badge of dishonor to be called a nerd or a geek. And I remember like other girls like in my classroom like snubbing me because I wanted to play Space Quest instead of going to the mall with them. And like I remember like that, and it's like, bro, don't talk to me about feeling like oppressed or whatever. No, like I said, like I mean, like people don't realize is that games is an enormous business. It rakes in more than the film and music industries combined, yet despite that, it's a very tiny industry. Like, we don't even have a code in the North American industry classification system. Yeah, how's that for your random fact of the day? No, we still actually don't have, one of those codes, which, it actually makes things like kind of difficult for like statistical and tracking purposes. When like for real talk, and an indie developer who's just a one-person studio making games out of their apartment or whatever, they have to use the same industry code on their tax return that Microsoft uses. Just thought I would put that out there. That's the kind of world that that we've got, and they don't realize the enormity of it, yet the weird isolation that this industry has. But I'm sorry, I think B had a couple more things to get to before I did, so just
no, that was pretty much it.
I mean, because in short, I mean, she basically said a lot of what I already wanted to say about how women developers get more abuse than men. this is just something that I'm speaking from with experience. It's actually less so because I'm in the games industry and more just because, like, I have a very prominent presence, like, online, pretty much. And I mean, no, like, women who are very, like, public facing will get abuse. Just ask anyone in customer service if you ever held one of those jobs. Which, you know, those are staffed predominantly by women, and oh yeah, we face so much abuse in those environments. And so pretty much any public facing job or profession that a woman is in, she's going to deal with abuse. When she becomes high profile, she's going to deal with abuse. Like, I mean, like, I've had I had to, like, basically take, like, extra security measures on my own damn website because I've had it hacked. I've had my email hacked. I've had I've had some pretty scary shit happen, and there's a lot of men who do this, because they feel intimidated, because they feel that we're impinging on their territory, or we're saying something that they don't like, and that we're not just gonna, like, bow out in submission. So they know that, like, we're just gonna harass and intimidate them, to the point that they won't want to be online or visible anymore. And so when you have these, like I said, these female developers, who are very visible, who are, doing their thing, and even if, like, they've had nothing but, like, friendly or innocuous, interactions with their community or just in general, you're always going to find at least one person who wants to tear them down because, like, they just don't like to see a woman with, like, that dream job or that dream business that they wish they could have, or whatever it is. That's toxic masculinity for you. That's just basically the kind of world that we have to put up with when we're visible online. I mean, like, so I just thinking about my own experience with online abuse. It's actually been pretty tame compared to a lot of women I know, both in and out of games. But just other women in media with a noticeable presence. Like, we've all had to deal with this to some extent. And yeah.
So, do you think? And so, what I'm hearing, and I think this is true too. Do you think that there's two issues here? One, that these males that feel this way, that they feel like their industry or whatever is being taken away from them. And two, do you think also that they feel that they could do this to women because they feel that, and I'm not agreeing with this, but they feel like women are weaker than they are. Do you feel like those are two of the issues that we're facing, perhaps?
I believe so. I definitely believe so. Because that's the thing, like pretty much when you have, a woman who's, I said, very prominent to some degree, online, in meat space, or both. You're definitely gonna have these, these guys who just want to harass and intimidate her out of public life and out of, whatever she's doing. Because they really do think that, like, women are weaker than them, that they don't deserve their success, their following, their happiness, what have you. They totally do this because they want to take you down a few pegs. Like, they know that, those harassment measures, will make you stop what you're doing, to either fix the problem yourself or hire somebody to fix it for you. Like, if your site gets hacked, for instance, they know it's going to, like, railroad you for whatever you were doing. And it's just that, they do things like that purposely because, I said, it may be resentment, it may be jealousy, it may be, any combination. That feeling of, taking what was theirs, or any number of things. But it ultimately does come down to it just being, rooted in pure misogynistic resentment. That really is, like, what it boils down to. I mean, of course, not obviously not all men who play games are like this. I know it's a very like small but vocal contingent, but it's just that they purposely do this because it's they get the satisfaction, I said, out of like trying to like tear a strong woman down and then throw that back in her face, be like, oh, you're so strong, you're this strong, powerful, independent feminist. Oh, then why do you need like say like women only developer spaces, or why do you need to have like games made for women? Like they just come up with this because they can't get over the fact that the world is changing and that like women don't have to put up with their crap anymore. That really is what it comes down to.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, B?
What, as far as what can we do to fix it?
Yeah, well, yeah, let's go into that. What do you think we can do to fix this issue?
I think it's a very complicated issue, and to say, I want to touch on what we've all kind of moved on into while we've been talking, which is more into the way kind of people talk to each other online.
Yeah.
In general, like forgetting big cases of like viral abuse where people are doxxed and it actually becomes threatening. Speaking more about day-to-day interaction, I think that what everyone can do, and I know a lot of people I've spoken to don't agree, and that's fine, but if someone is unkind to me online, I will, if I can't be kind in response, I will just block and walk away. Otherwise, I'll say, it's happened a few times where I've had kind of just this big, unkind, not threateningly abusive, but definitely unkind message, and I've just said, what's going on? Why are you angry? What's going on? And if you talk to people, 9 out of 10 times, they will start to talk back in a kind of more rational and calm way. And if they don't, you don't have to walk away from that feeling bad or aggravated or wound up because you've also given them what they probably do deserve and yelled back at them. You can try and diffuse the situation if you want to, or you can walk away, and that's what I tend to try and do. Diffuse it. If that doesn't work, walk away. If it's too extreme for me to want to try and diffuse it, to just straight up walk away, straight away block. I think if people yelled at each other less on both sides, I don't think things would be as bad as they are.
No, I think that's really good advice. Yeah.
But obviously, that doesn't work when you're getting people, getting threats and getting purposefully kind of picked out for the gender or anything else like that. But just generally when you get the kind of unwanted angry messages from people.
Yeah, well, it depends on the context of that message. Like, because there's times when you can you just you're polite, you're civil, you're trying to steer the conversation into getting a rational response from them. But then, but when it starts getting into just the total hate messages and threats category, then but that's a whole other thing. Which the roots of that are deeper and much more complicated. It can't be easily solved by just writing a polite response. Go ahead.
Sorry, thank you. I was going to say, I think in this instance, I'm more speaking towards the cases. So say you have someone who is maybe known in the games industry who says something that is out of line, say it's about women, and everyone on Twitter, it's a big place to talk about mental health matters, for example, and someone will say something that is out of line, that isn't threatening or abusive, just something about women not belonging in the industry, so something that's out of line, but someone will share that, and then suddenly you have thousands of people piling on this one person, disregarding kind of all the talk they've been doing a minute ago about, you don't know, we have to look after each other's mental health, we don't know what's going on with people. Everybody essentially calling for a dog pile on this person who said something that was out of line, but I think some people are so willing to just get angry and to yell at each other that in those kind of instances where their immediate response is to be like, look what this person did, go and tell them how bad they are, and then suddenly there's just a giant dog pile. I think they're the kind of things that we need to stop. Yeah. When people stop talking, I think that's when we get real problems.
Yeah.
I understand why certain people should probably not be listened to. I do really get that, but I also think that it is true that when we stop talking, more problems can more easily kind of boil up without us knowing they're doing that because we're not talking.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, if you have thoughts on this topic, listeners, you can reach out to us. You can reach out to us on Twitter at GamerHeadsPC. You can also reach us on Facebook at facebook.com/GamerHeadsPodcast, or you can email us at GamerHeadsPodcast@gmail.com. I'd like to know your thoughts are on this topic as well. All right, before we leave then, why don't we go into what we're currently playing, and Rachel, since you're a guest, what games are you currently playing?
So I've been playing Stardew Valley. That game it's addictive. It gets a little stressful. But I just been playing it a lot and just thinking a lot about all the different mechanics, because hey, I gotta geek out about that. All the different mechanics that go into I don't know the right word I'm going for here. I guess I wouldn't say the building puzzles, but just the way that you advance in this game. I mean, there's so many different possibilities, and I like the way that they do it without completely overwhelming you. Because there's a lot of games I've played like that where you have all these different options for advancement. I like the fact that you can also try them all out. You can try out farming versus fishing versus mining or what have you, and then the game doesn't completely lock out the certain each path. You can try a little bit of everything, or you can just hyper focus on just one of those disciplines, which I thought was pretty cool. And it's just hilarious looking at my Twitter feed and seeing other people play this game and talk about how with the romance paths it feels way too real to them. It's also, I mean, even though I'm not queer, it's awesome to see that you have queer options in this game.
Yeah.
That's definitely something that we need a lot more of.
Yeah.
And I mean, okay, I am a straight and cisgender, but I honestly would have loved to have grown up with more media that showed queer characters in a positive light. Between games, movies, cartoons, and so on. I got into a discussion about that the other day, with someone just saying that, even though I'm not queer, I would have loved to have seen media with queer characters growing up, just to show that, hey, they're out there, that they're out there. It's not some abnormal thing like we were, I think, still taught in the 80s and 90s, and I was growing up. So I've been playing a lot of Stardew Valley. I'm also a big Heroes of Might and Magic geek.
Oh, cool.
So, I've been playing Heroes of Might and Magic 4. That was I haven't played anything since 4. Heroes of Might and Magic 5 was horrendous. And then I didn't even try out the 6th game because I heard that they took away the town screen. I'm like, what was the point of that?
Yeah.
And so I played Heroes of Might and Magic 5 for 5 minutes and I'm never again. So the series stops at 4, to me at least. The Winds of War expansion is where it stops for me. And then for adventure games, I also just started playing Techno Babylon on my iPad.
Oh, cool.
I picked that one up, and so I've been playing that game on the train.
Fun. Cool. E, what about you? What have you been playing?
I have been playing Professor Layton, Pandora's Box.
Oh.
I started it quite a while ago and forgot about it, and then I went back to it, and I think I've nearly finished it now. I do really like This thing, I'm not a big fan of puzzle games, but I love anything that's to do with kind of like detectives and mysteries. So therefore, I like that puzzle game.
Nice.
I love mystery games too. Like,
oh, they're so good.
Have you been playing anything else, B?
No, I haven't this week. I haven't gone back to God of War yet. I will.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got to see some of those
haven't.
photos.
Yeah. I need to start taking some. I haven't taken any yet. I'm really bad for that on my PS4, taking photos.
Let's see. I've been playing Miles and Kilo. So I've been playing that a lot. And I actually got back into Rogue Aces on the Switch. I played it for a while, and then and that actually it's interesting, like how the game dev the game devs are trying to get like a community going in that game where they have like different challenges for you. I am not good at that game. But it's still fun to play, so I enjoy that. And then and then last night I started playing Pokemon Quest again, and I don't know why, but and then I played Animal Crossing New Leaf, and man, they were not happy that I was gone as long as I have been. But the whatever that assistant manager, she was like, or mayor, or whatever, she's like, I've been taking care of it. I hope you don't mind. I'm like, no, it's fine. Like, I'm not here, so you might as well be in charge when I'm not here.
I mean, she says that, but then your town is full of weeds.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, what have you been doing? Like, you said you're in charge. What have you been doing? Although I do have Ganon living in my town, so perhaps she had to keep him in check.
Keep him in check.
Yeah, exactly. Then before we go, then let's go ahead and give people our contact info so that they can get a hold of us. So Rachel, how can people get a hold of you?
I'm on Twitter. Just at NYHC Maven84. Just look up Rachel the Toad Lady. That's how most people find me anyway. And then you could also check out my website, sonictoad.com. Going to be having a shiny new site soon. And one quick shameless plug while I'm still on.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're more interested in learning about the business of games, or if like, hey, like you're a game dev and like you're having trouble like with marketing, biz dev, other aspects of your professional development, I recently took part in a really cool project with about 30 other industry professionals called the Virtual Business of Games Summit. I'll give you a link to that.
Okay.
To throw up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's gonna go live on July 24th to the 27th, I believe. So that's been a pretty awesome project that I participated in, which you might want to check out. So follow me on Twitter if you want to see long rants about socialism, amphibians, video games, and some not safe for work stuff. Text only. I'm not going to give you visuals. But yeah, that's the crazy amalgamation. That's my Twitter feed.
Nice. B, how can people get a hold of you?
You can find me on Twitter at B_Wakefield, so it's just my name.
Nice. And you can get a hold of us at GamerHeads at GamerHeadsPC on Twitter. And again, you can reach us on email, gamerheadspodcast@gmail.com. Or you can go to facebook.com/GamerHeadsPodcast. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear feedback from the show. Let us know what your thoughts are. So for myself, B, and Rachel, thank you so much for listening to GamerHeads, and GamerHeads out.